one of the things that struck me when I started investing with Ask the Angels is the women entrepreneurs were not just, you know, the young first-time women. These were serial entrepreneurs, very seasoned, very professional, highly educated, but still at the end of the day having trouble funding. So getting funding for their next, you know, for their next series. So it's not just a youth thing or a startup thing. It's an ongoing challenge. Can we talk a little bit more about your specific experience? And we'll start with you.
Well, yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, what I think is amazing is seeing some of the women who have had huge successes already. They've done their angel round, they've done their Series A, now they're at their Series B, they're hitting their milestones, and they still cannot get funded. And it's still so much harder than it is for the men. There's a real gap right now in that Series A, Series B. There's a lot of angel funding. There's a lot of alternative funding sources coming for the early stage. There certainly can be more, but there are more options to start. But once you get going, there's actually fewer options at that Series A, Series B level because the big funds are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're going upstream, and then there's the angels down here, and there's this window, and I think it's getting harder and harder for the women to raise in that window. So that's a real problem that I'm seeing. Start there.
Suma, anything to add to that?
I'll let Jenny
Yeah.
go.
I mean, I haven't actively raised money in a while, but certainly I've seen a lot of female entrepreneurs actively raising money, and it's hard. And it's hard because there are not that many women out there in the VC world who have the big money that when you get outside of the seed stage. We spend time working on educating our investors and our ecosystem as well as our founders on making sure that the language is right and teaching the women how to flip the language around so that they're talking back to the investors in the language that they would be using with men, and really trying to change the dialogue with that. I found it interesting when we were raising money at MakerBot. We were running a really tight fundraising around six weeks between East Coast, West Coast. We were raising about a $50 million round before Stratasys stepped in, and I was leading that round, and I was shocked at the treatment I got from major top shelf VCs who I wanted to talk to the person who was. They would only want to talk to Bree. They wouldn't want to talk to me. It was clear, and Bree was very clear that I was the one running the process. They also thought that I was the admin, and they would call me to schedule things and make sure that and it was still. I mean, this was only 5 years ago. Just walking into the room expecting to not be at the table. They would turn and talk to Bree, and it was really an interesting exercise because he would have to redirect them all. Very, very different than doing a deal with an Israeli company where the men walked into the room and had no problem with the fact that Bree was in the room and it was me that they were going to talk to. It was stunning difference. So I think that there's a lot to learn, and I think that it made me sad to hear the comments of that girl's mother, because it was how my mother always was. Like, I had a company that was a multi-million-dollar company that was going to sell for millions of dollars, and she kept saying, "You should maybe join the local, Red Cross board so that you can build your resume." I'm like, build my resume. And so there's just this disconnect, and the messages that come through are so. I don't think I know people don't realize what they're saying, and the messages that are being delivered. Every woman in tech should go to Grace Hopper once to see, just to see 10,000 women in a room together who are in technology is mind-blowing. So.